Hey, Justin Dyson here, Dyson Apiaries. What I have here is a 2-story 5-frame nuke. This is the configuration we run a lot of nukes through the winter with. What this is basically a 5-frame nuke. I started up late season start toward the tail end of the spring honey flow. Only about a week and a half left of the honey flow when I started this hive up. And I'm going to talk about kind of the advantages of running this configuration, and I'm going to jump them over into a full hive because I believe this colony is ready. Stick right with us, hit that subscribe button. Thanks. So like I mentioned, this colony was a 5-frame nuke. I probably started them up with about 4 frames, 3 brood, 1 food, something like that, and introduced a queen cell to them, a ripe queen cell. They hatched, the queen cell emerged, made it out, mated, came back, and the colony's been growing. Like I said, this was a late start, probably latter part of May, so they've only had about 3-4 weeks of growing, and they were primed for that based on the brood I gave them. So they have kind of jumped, and what I like to do is set these colonies up. When I'm introducing foundation to the top, I didn't have any drone comb to put on these nukes, so when I'm doing 5 additional frames of foundation, what I like to do is draw them out above the brood, as opposed to doing them in a 10-frame configuration where those 5 frames are hanging down to the bottom board. A lot of times these colonies won't draw that frame all the way down to the bottom edge, and so I like to do it like this, and then I get a really good set of comb, and then I can transition them over into a full hive as soon as they have drawn all that comb. And I think this colony's right for that. I'm going to jump in here and check them, and we're going to move them over. Another kind of key thing is this is actually the configuration that I run 5-frame nukes through the winter in. I typically run them in a 2-story. Not saying you can't do a single-story 5-frame nuke through the winter. That's just the configuration that I've chosen. I like to have this top story completely full of honey, and then the bottom will be honey and a little bit of brood going into the winter. And you can grow these colonies and come out in the spring with a honey ripe, ready to go colony that will, you can typically break off a nuke from them for a divide if you have a queen available, and expand them out into a full hive and make honey off of them in the spring. We have really good success overwintering nukes. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the young queen, the nuke home, the configuration being narrow. Honestly, I don't know. Brood cycle break, you know, in this case with like a queen cell. I don't know exactly what it is, but these colonies always have a tendency to outperform my full colonies that I overwinter. They just do fantastic. So this one was a little early for an overwinter nuke, but I'm going to transition these into a full colony. So I'm going to get right into that. Hopefully they'll have things ready to go, and I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about on the comb, how they draw it down to the bottom of the frames. They are definitely ready for some additional room. So I'm going to try to spot the queen here as we move them over, just to make sure that I get her moved. But let's find the frame here. So this is interesting. 5 frames. This was the outermost frame, and this colony has got eggs and larvae in this outermost frame here in a configuration like you would see in a double deep. They're rolling up in the top, and it's laid full over here. But also note that this was a piece of foundation that I put in here, and see how it's drawn all the way down in the corners, all the way across the bottom board. A nicely drawn frame. This wasn't drawn on feed. This was drawn on tulip poplar, blackberry, spring honey flow. But a lot of times when the frames are down in the bottom, down here, they have a tendency to kind of cut that off. They don't want to go all the way down there to the bottom board. So if we started this colony in a 10 frame hive, we would have ended up with a lot of frames that had that round look to them. And I don't know, I personally I like them to be nice and drawn out. It's more efficient, and allows me to move that frame around a little better throughout the hive. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can spot this queen. Now when we're moving this hive over, we want to keep in mind the configuration. I mean, it's plenty warm right now, but we don't want to bust the brood up with a big old frame of honey right in the middle, or have, you know, a brood frame separated from other broods. So I kind of put the smaller brood over to the edges, and then as we get in the bottom, it should be big frames of brood. I'll put those right in the middle. I'm gonna put these top frames on either side of the 10 frame box. Nice frame of brood there. These colonies are looking good. They're going to continue to grow all the way to winter. And there's our queen. If you can see her, if you care to see her, she's right there. I got her marked yellow. This is this year's queen. It's a nice almost Cordovan queen. Alright, we're going to go ahead and take these bottom frames out. They should have a little more brood in them. This frame's actually full of honey. I got some brood on one side. So I'm gonna put this one on the side because it's got one frame of honey, or one side has got honey on it. So again, I don't want to split that brood with honey. Another frame of honey. I'm going to squeeze it over to the side over here. Always make sure we tighten our frames back up when we get done. I'll set this hive to the side over here. They have a new home. Now, I'm going to go ahead. This colony is already completely out of room, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start setting them up for a winter configuration. I could probably take this colony and make it just a touch of sourwood, but I'm not going to. So I'm just going to go ahead and set a deep foundation on top of them, and if they're not bringing any nectar, I'll go ahead and start feeding them and get them to go ahead and draw that comb out and fill that up and be ready for winter. So this will be a good colony here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. There we have another deep. Like I say, I could put the queen excluder in here and they might make us a little bit of honey. Definitely would if I would haul these to the mountains for sourwood, but I'm just gonna leave this colony here and use them for next year mostly. Let them go ahead and draw me out some comb. I'm gonna put a lid on here. I could put a feeder. I could put a frame feeder in here, or hive top feeder, entrance feeder if you prefer. Or I have some of these tops of the hole drilled. You can put a bucket feeder or a jar feeder on top. So, colony's looking good, ready to roll.